Conor Gallagher is officially a Tottenham Hotspur player, and in this video we're going to be talking about exactly how he fits in to this Tottenham Hotspur setup under Thomas Frank, the 3 or 4 ways that he could get in there. We're going to talk about his 5 biggest positives, in my opinion, the 5 biggest strengths that he can bring to Tottenham. I am going to talk about the concerns that I have got as well, but I'm going to start with the positives and the setup. We're going to talk about what it means for Tottenham's squad. Are there players that are going to have to make way in the summer? What still needs doing to make Conor Gallagher a really valuable squad piece? And yeah, make sure to like the video if you enjoy it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. I always enjoy doing these signing videos. And to be honest, as much as over the last couple of days, I've been a bit critical of the thought behind this signing and our kind of squad building and squad planning. New transfer dopamine has just hit, and I'm fully on board and I'm excited. And it's never been about Conor Gallagher as a player for me, as I would have said in my last YouTube video, as I've said in recent TikToks and tweets as well. I've always really rated Conor Gallagher. I wanted to sign him under Ange Postecoglou. I think it makes slightly less sense now under Thomas Frank. But if Spurs can put all of the other pieces around him together, including signing a new deep line playmaker that actually address the biggest issues of what we've got in midfield to help us be a more functional team, whether that's now or whether that's looking ahead to next season, might potentially have a new manager as well by then, who knows, then I think this can be a really good signing for Spurs. And I want to talk about his 5 biggest strengths. I think the first one is his box crashing ability. He is very, very good when he can make, when you're on transition, ball goes out into the wide areas. His kind of timing of runs into the box, you can see him there on the edge. Oh, why has that gone so big? You can see him there on the edge of the box, making this run in here. His timing of the run is very good. Cutback comes in. Very good first time finish on the sweep. Now, he's also very good at shooting from outside the box as well. And I think his ball striking is the second positive, just generally. I'm going to go through some of his Chelsea goals from 23-24 here. Again, Thomas Frank isn't the biggest on shots from outside the box, but what I like about Gallagher is he has got match-winning quality. As you can see here, left foot, bends it in the top corner, good on either foot. Good at being able to create separation. He scored a very similar goal for Chelsea against Crystal Palace the season prior to this, where he bent it in from the left-hand side, wraps it top bins. He's a very good ball striker. And Conor Gallagher, despite the issues that I think he might have in terms of playing in the 8, I think he's a very sound technical footballer. Very crisp, very clean, does things with good intensity, doesn't dawdle too much. Like, he's very good at shooting from outside the box. And again, another example here against Crystal Palace. You can see, where is he? Conor Gallagher is here on that last line of that Chelsea attack. Ball goes in behind to Gusto from Caicedo, and then Conor Gallagher arrives and first time on the volley sweeps that ball in. Scores a very similar goal in this game as well, where again on transition you can see Conor Gallagher here making this run into the box. Ball goes out to Cole Palmer. Chelsea look for the cutback situation. Palmer cuts it back to him. Gallagher on the edge of the box, and we've seen him do this for other teams as well. We've seen him do this for Atletico a couple of times in the box or just on the edge, where the ball gets played back to him and he sweeps it in first time really nicely. What I also like about him is he's good at playing in the pocket. He's very good in tight spaces, I think. Not as nimble as someone like a Simmons or a Maddison, but I think he is calm under pressure on the last kind of attacking line. Enzo Fernandez punches the ball into him here. He's asking for it with his back to goal, turns the Leeds defender on the half turn. Another quick touch here to get it out his feet quickly and wraps it home. Again, against teams that are kind of sitting in a little bit, I like his runs into the box as well, in behind that defensive line. Griezmann here plays the ball into, I think that's Rodrigo De Paul. You can see Gallagher here on the edge, and as soon as De Paul gets it, Gallagher is looking to make that run in behind. De Paul plays it into him. Again, gets it out of his feet really cleanly first time and just strokes it home really, really well. He's a very, very good finisher. Now, I want to talk about his line-breaking passing because it's not something that he is particularly known for. I don't think he does his best work in deeper areas. I think he does his best work in these kind of areas when he is playing as that second striker. I think the proof is in the pudding when you look at his record at Chelsea and at Crystal Palace. If you go back to that Chelsea season under Mauricio Pochettino, 23-24, 7 goals, 9 assists in 50 games. His durability is also one of his biggest strengths as well, which I wasn't in my 5, but I also want to. It's worth mentioning. 8 goals and 5 assists for Crystal Palace as well that season. I think the proof is in the pudding that he is used best as a second striker that can affect things in and around the penalty area or on the edge of the box because of his ball striking, because of his ability to run into the box, and also he presses really well from that position as well. And that is one of the other things I wanted to talk about, his attitude and work rate. I think off the bench for Atletico Madrid this season, he was still averaging over 3 tackles and 2 interceptions per game. If we look at the stats here in the last 365 days compared to other midfielders in Europe, he's in the top 4 percentile for interceptions. He's very good at winning the ball back. He's a very, very good presser. And I just do really like his attitude. He's going to give you absolutely everything every time he steps on the football pitch. And sometimes when you're in the situation that Spurs are in right now, you do just need that bit of a lift. You need someone who is going to be a 7 out of 10 every week. And I think those intangibles like that make him a really good signing for those reasons. And his leadership as well is another one. Obviously, captain Chelsea, under Mauricio Pochettino. Thomas Frank had these things to say about him. He's a top midfielder. He's captain the team, so will bring leadership, maturity, character, and personality to our dressing room, which is, he's key in this. It really is. As much as we can talk about profile, and that's something that I've spoken about a lot this week, and I know a few Spurs fans and creators have spoken about it as well. We are crying out for that deep line playmaker profile. We are. That we can't get away from that, and that has to factor into this signing, as although you can separate it, and if Spurs end the window with a number 6 that can do the things that we are lacking to also help get the best out of Conor Gallagher, then I will be happy. It's just whether we trust the club to do that. But as one of those 5 things, it's his leadership, his maturity, his mentality, I think, is absolutely top, and I think that is what he will help bring to this team that do need a shot in the arm. And I think Gallagher, with his energy alongside his leadership skills, will obviously bring that. And finally, as well, like if you look at our other midfielders, he is a good age profile. 25 years old coming into this squad, still young enough we're going to get the best years out of him, but has got a wealth of experience. Has been playing first team football for a long time. Obviously, we've got Sarr, who's just a couple of years younger than him. Lucas Bergwijn, 19. Archie Gray is also 19. Although for some reason is he a defender on SofaScore? Yeah, 19 years of age as well. Paulinho on the slightly older side and Bentancur on the slightly older side. So he's a good age profile, but he also brings a hell of a lot of experience to this team. I will end the video talking about, or it'll kind of be mixed into the tactical stuff about some of the concerns that I have around him, and when we talk about kind of where he fits. But I also want to talk about him in slightly deeper areas here, because there have been some examples of him being able to kind of play forward. When he does play deeper, he's very good at nipping in and winning the ball back. His anticipation, which is reflected in the fact that he ranks in the top 4 percentile for interceptions, 1.73 per game over the last year or so. His ability to shut things down and get in there and win the ball back is really good. And then here can drive forward. Again, here is brave, does break the line on transition to help Atleti go forward, does play this little side roll pass in here. So again, in transitional situations, I think he can do it. Again, another example here of him jumping in to win the ball back and setting Chelsea on the counter. He's good at that, we know. And to be fair as well, there are also some examples of him showing the ability that when he does receive the ball in the kind of middle of the pitch, for him to turn on it quickly and drive forward. He's not going to take as much time on it as the likes of Gray or the likes of Bentancur. He's much more intense with every action. Again, Fernandes fires the ball into him here, opens his body up really nicely to turn away from, I think that's Tim Ream, who jumps out for him to then drive in that space. So again, he's very good at that. If we can get the ball to him in those kind of areas, he's very good at turning, driving into space. He does work very quickly. I do feel like one of the things about our midfield at the moment, especially with someone like a Paulinho not so much actually, but Bentancur certainly, who Gallagher is kind of coming in to essentially replace at this moment in time. Everything with Bentancur just feels so laboured. It feels so laboured at the moment. So where is Conor Gallagher going to fit in to this Tottenham Hotspur team? Now, at the moment, this is kind of how Spurs have been lining up recently. This was the starting 11 against Aston Villa at the weekend with Paulinho and Gray in those 2 defensive midfield positions. Obviously, Danso played instead of Romero. I've kind of mixed this with our best defence, but also the midfield and attacking line that we've been running with, and Solanke coming back in to replace the injury of Richarlison or Colomwani. Striker position is not that important in this, right? But this is the midfield that we have been running. Paulinho and Gray for a decent amount of time. Or Bentancur's kind of jumped into that as well. Bentancur and Gray, or Paulinho and Gray. Bentancur now out for 3 months. Bergval's injury is probably more serious than we thought, which is also partly the reason why I think they rushed to try and get this deal done. So is Gallagher going to replace Gray in the pivot or Paulinho? Or is he going to come in and play as a number 10? Which I think those are two potential options. Or are we going to see him come in and potentially play on the right-hand side at certain points? A little bit like Thomas Frank used Lucas Bergval against Bournemouth last week. Now, this was something that kind of only really popped into my head last minute when I was preparing for this video, just because of how Bergval was used. And I think what we saw from Bergval in that game wasn't him being used as a right winger. It was him kind of sort of tucking inside and making runs in beyond the last line, using his energy on those kind of third man runs to get into here and cross the ball and drop deep to help receive it. So I think this is also a role that we could maybe see him play in potentially. But if we go back to the start, I don't think you're going to see necessarily Gallagher partnered with Archie Gray. I think Gallagher is going to come in, if he plays in that pivot, to play probably alongside João Paulinho, because Gray at the moment isn't that sort of defensive midfielder maybe that Thomas Frank wants. But we also have seen when Spurs do build up in this 3-2-5 shape, him play with Gray and Bentancur. Neither of those are necessarily, again, like an out-and-out defensive midfielder. So against teams where we might look to dominate the ball and actually play with a bit more fluidity, like we have when we've set up in this way, when we've got a Doggy, an overlapping fullback back, or Sousa that comes into this team, maybe you will see him be a little bit more brave and play Gallagher and Gray in there as two kind of number 8s, or Sarr and Gallagher potentially, maybe. Because Gray, to be fair, his positional discipline is good, because when Van de Ven steps out, Gray does often tuck into this back three to kind of cover the space. So that is potentially an option. But my gut feeling is that we're probably going to see Paulinho and Gallagher. Now, Gallagher, as you can see here, in terms of his progressive passing numbers, they're not the strongest. They're not the strongest. He's been playing, obviously, I guess, slightly deeper for Atletico Madrid. But he also has had times where he's played further up, and you can see here ranks in the top 15 percentile for progressive passes received. So he is the one that's kind of getting the ball punched through the lines to him to allow him to turn. Again, touches in the attacking penalty area, getting a little bit further forward. I think he's played deeper at times for Atletico, but again, kind of used when he has played in a similar role to what we saw at Chelsea, which saw him put up these kind of numbers. Chances created second, assists second, duels won first, tackles won first, interceptions first, possession won first. Those are attributes that could see him potentially slot in slightly deeper, but to contextualise that, a lot of those, that came from him playing as basically a number 10 or as a second striker, and they are compared to other Chelsea players. So, I think you're going to see your best football from Gallagher when he does play slightly higher up. Now, I think what Thomas Frank's vision potentially is with this is moving Xavi Simons to the left-hand side, using Conor Gallagher as the 10, and having Wilson Odobert out on the right. I still worry about Spurs being able to progress the ball through the thirds to actually allow Spurs to get the best out of Gallagher. However, when Simons has played in this setup, Simons does like to drop deep and receive it, which means he can then kind of be the one that's sort of punching through the lines from this kind of position to Conor Gallagher, potentially. And Conor Gallagher almost as the I guess if Spurs are kind of just drop into a 4 at times, then Simons kind of drops into the pivot to help us play through the lines. Or, again, if we do play with Gallagher, Simons and Paulinho as a midfield 3, whatever way you want to kind of slice that up. Again, we have seen Simons here. Oh, sorry, if we just get rid of that. We have seen Simons, again, drop deeper to look for the ball, which could then allow Gallagher to kind of push on, and Simons can be the one that can find him. So Simons is kind of dropping in next to that other pivot player. But my gut feeling is that Gallagher comes in and plays in the 10 for us with Simons on the left. Now, with Simons on the left, I don't mind it as long as he's got a width-holding left fullback beyond him, whether that's Sousa or a Doggy. I think Gallagher and Simons both operate best when they're kind of in and around the edge of the box, kind of playing as second strikers themselves. Both are good at making runs into the box. Both are good at combining in and around the box as well. I think their one-touch play is pretty good, receiving it on the half-turn and making something of it quickly, as we've looked at with some of the examples with Gallagher. But again, I still worry that you're not going to actually get the best out of Gallagher in that kind of role, because we are struggling to progress the ball through the thirds. Archie Gray's progressive passing numbers are better than the likes of Paulinho and Bentancur, but I still think we need another profile in midfield to help unlock the best of Gallagher at Tottenham Hotspur. I do still think that. And also, when you look at Tottenham's kind of midfield options, those are 8 players there that from the start of next season will be fighting for 3 spaces. Now, it's not really 8 because we can chuck Basuma out. I think Basuma's gone. So, and Paulinho is on loan, but obviously there is that option to buy. Will Spurs be ruthless enough to move on Paulinho? Where is it? The highlight. Paulinho and Bentancur. Will they be ruthless enough to do that? I hope they are. Bentancur obviously signed a new contract very recently, a new long-term deal. Was that to preserve his value? Hopefully. Obviously, this injury has not helped and has complicated things. In an ideal world, I think you move these 2 on, and you are left then with Gray, Bergvall, Gallagher, Sarr, Maddison, Kulusevski and Simmons to play for 3 midfield spaces, assuming that you're playing with 2 pivots and a 10, or a kind of, I guess, a single pivot, maybe a number 8 and a number 10, whatever, right? So that leaves you with these 7 options to kind of play with. Spurs still need a new deep line playmaker, right? To come in and kind of be that number 6. Whether that's a Wharton, Anderson, Hackney, Manu Kone, Locatelli. There's options out there for Spurs. Wharton, I think, and Anderson, I think, are off the table, even though I think if Spurs were a proper club, they'd try and throw everything at someone like a Wharton, but obviously we're going to face stiff kind of competition. If Spurs go into next season shaping up like this, with a new deep line playmaker, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, Gallagher, and Pat Matasar, then I'm happy. Because then you've got 5 players fighting for 2 spaces in the pivot, and then, or 4, potentially. I mean, Gallagher can kind of do both, but yeah, so 5 players fighting for 2 places in the pivot, then 3 number 10s, also a kind of Gallagher who can play as a 10 as well. So I think that's good. Obviously, if we're not in Europe, there is a question mark over whether there will be enough game time to spread around between these 8 players in 3 midfield positions. If we are able to turn this season around, which hopefully Gallagher will help us to do, then maybe there is then enough game time if you're playing in the Conference League or Europa League to spread the minutes around between these guys. We've also got to remember that Kulusevski might not come back the same player. Spurs are also looking at someone like a Magnus Akliouche that could also come in and play in that 10 as well. So we've got options there. But if we strip away the number 10s just for a sec and focus on these 5 guys that could play in the pivot, when you look at what Gallagher's biggest strengths are, he does, I think that Sarr, I think he's got, I do think he is a better number 8 than these 2 right now. These 3 right now. I do think he's a better number 8 than these 3 right now. I think Bergvall's ceiling is incredibly high, and I would like him to be trusted more in the pivot when he does return from injury, because, again, when you look at his progressive ability, he is very good at getting us up the pitch. And to be fair, Gallagher is also a progressive carrier. We know that he can drive forward with the ball. His progressive carries are decent. It's just he's not the most forward-thinking passer. He is kind of sideways, backwards, a little bit too safe like we already have got. That is why I think he does his best work further up the pitch when he's on the end of progressive passes, when you've got an Enzo Fernandez and you've got a Caicedo behind you as that pivot, or a Lavia to punch those balls through the lines as we saw at Chelsea in that season, for him to then do his best business in and around the final third, where he can get shots off quickly, play the ball out wide, one-touch spray it, then get in the box for a header or for a cutback, right? But I think Bergvall can do that. I think Sarr can also do that. I think Gallagher can do it to a better level right now. I think Gallagher is a better shooter than someone like a Pat Matasar. I also think he's got a very good engine like Sarr as well, which does make me think, potentially, especially if Spurs aren't in Europe next season, Pat Matasar might be gone. Because I think Gallagher, I really love Pat Sarr, and I think maybe I overrate him slightly due to emotional attachment. I think we've seen him play some brilliant games for us as well. But the reality is I think Gallagher could maybe do what Sarr does and potentially do it better and add a few other things that Sarr kind of lacks in his game, that composure in and around the final third. Although we have seen Sarr box crash as well. So then you're going in potentially with 4 plus those 3 number 10s till next season. I would like to keep Sarr around. I would like us to go in with these 5. But if there isn't the game time to be shared around, then maybe Sarr does potentially have to go. But then again, the fact that Gallagher can play 10, opens it up for Sarr a little bit more as well. And it is a squad game. There's loads of injuries and stuff like that as well. So maybe I'm overthinking it to an extent. So if Gallagher comes in to replace essentially Bentancur, Paulinho gets moved on to bring in a quality deep line playmaker that can break play up but can play through the lines and help fix our central progression issues, then I think Conor Gallagher is a really smart signing because of all of the things that we spoke about at the start, all the qualities that he brings on the pitch, but also the intangibles. But I just don't know if we're going to see the best version of him right now while we still haven't brought in this kind of player, because Gallagher does his best work in and around the final third. If you paired him as an 8 with a deep line playmaker, I think you get the best of the box-to-box stuff out of him as well, because he can break up play deeper, although I do think a lot of these duels, a lot of these tackles, a lot of these interceptions come from him winning the ball back high in the final third with his pressing. Again, I think he's a really good player and a really good squad piece, but you have to have the right players around him to extract as much out of him as you can. I think he's going to raise the level of Tottenham right now because of all the things we spoke about. He's going to give it absolutely everything. He plays with more intensity than the likes of Bentancur. He is going to be an upgrade on Bentancur for sure, but it's just whether we're going to see the best out of him right now. Whether that will come next season when we bring in a deep line playmaker, I don't know. I still have issues in terms of Spurs' squad planning and squad building, not targeting a midfield player that helps solve those issues. Maybe they will still do that in the window. But it's Tottenham, right? It is Tottenham. So yeah, where's he going to play? I think Frank might play him in the 10. I also think I could see him playing him in the pivot just to slot in for Bentancur next to Paulinho. There's options. He could also play on the right. I still think we need a deep line playmaker to help unlock the best of Conor Gallagher, because his progressive passing abilities aren't going to help improve the team that much in terms of the issues that we're having, but also there is so much else that he can bring to the team. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how you think we're going to set up with him. Rate the signing out of 10. Let me know what you think about Spurs' squad planning. Does it affect the likes of Sarr, Bergvall, etc.? Are one of them have to be moved on? There are so many questions to answer with this signing, but there are also so many things to be positive about. Like I said, I feel like I've been quite down on it, but that is nothing to do with Conor Gallagher as a player. I really, really like him. It's just a question of, is he the best fit for what we really need right now? Are we going to get the best out of him with how we currently set up? Those are my kind of questions, but there are also a hell of a lot of brilliant things that he can bring. Let me know your thoughts. Get in the comments. Up the Spurs.